So in over 5 years selling real estate in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and helping hundreds of people move here from all over the country and actually outside of the country as well, there are three most common states people are coming to Winston-Salem from. That is California, Florida, and Texas. They come here for a variety of reasons, but they tend to fall in a few different categories. And just to set your expectations, if you haven't been to Winston-Salem before, is really you have to think about the size of the area to keep things kind of fair, or so I'm not misleading you in any way. Really, the Winston-Salem itself has about 260,000 people in it. The whole metro area has under 700,000, about 670 to 690,000 people, if you include the suburbs and small towns all around Winston-Salem. That might be a pro to you, that might be a con to you, but you do have to take that consideration if you're thinking about moving here. I mean, the Orlando metro area has over 3 million people in it. California, huge population. Texas, obviously really big population centers as well. So just really keep the scale of these things in mind as I'm talking to you. But I think what you'll see if you research, this video and Winston-Salem a little bit more in general, I think you'll really see that the city has a lot to offer, given its size. But it's something to kind of just keep in mind is the scale of these things are just going to be probably much smaller than what you're used to if you're coming from one of these three states. And look, these are the most common reasons. They're not the only reasons. You might have your own reasons if you're thinking about moving here. And if you are, my name is Jeff Valentino. I help people buy and sell real estate. All my contact information and link to Google reviews are in the description below. But the first thing I want to talk to why people are leaving, Florida, Texas, and California, moving to Winston-Salem are politics. And I'm not going to try to get myself into too much trouble here, but that is a reason why people decide to move here from one of those three places. An interesting thing about that is those three places tend to have a little bit different politics, right? California versus Texas versus Florida. California, obviously, more blue. Texas, more red, except for the city of Austin. And then, They're all kind of different political environments. But here's the thing that they have in common and why I think people tend to move to Winston-Salem from some of those areas for politics. So while all those states might have different political leanings or their different pockets of this or that in their political preferences, Winston-Salem and North Carolina in general is purple enough just to kind of appeal to a little bit of everyone. The state is not always blue, it is not always red, it has different mixtures of governments, not only on the state level, and I mean purple enough by just the state level and then the local levels as well. And granted, city centers tend to be a little bit more red and the suburbs tend to be a little bit more blue, but what I found living here, coming from the suburbs of Chicago, is that it is not really extreme one way or the other. It's really is kind of amazing that it's just kind of purple. I mean, it's just a little bit of a happy medium wherever there's a little bit of everyone all around. And while this election might not go who you want, or that might not be who you want to get into office, there is just enough dysfunction, I guess, in there that everyone is forced to just kind of work together. It is not a monopoly run by one side or the other. And that really seems to be one of the keys that the Winston-Salem area tends to really get things going. Things don't stagnate. When you combine that with the city having to just kind of reinvent itself over the years since the tobacco boom in general, it really forces the city just to kind of make things happen regardless of political affiliation. All right, the next reason people are leaving these three states and moving to Winston-Salem, North Carolina is the overall quality of life. If you're looking for, a small to mid-sized city that has really highly rated schools, if you have children, or a great place to retire, or somewhere that has independent bookstores, good restaurants, nice coffee shops, an independent art scene, lots of live music, or you're looking for areas, with a lot of space or lower crime or whatever you have, Winston-Salem just has a huge variety of quality of life when you combine that in the suburbs of almost anything that you're looking for. And when you combine that with, Southern hospitality and a place where a lot of people are moving to from other parts of the country, so has a little bit of that melting pot, you're going to feel welcome here. Chances are your neighbor is not from Winston-Salem originally. They came here from somewhere else throughout the country. And then you have a place where you're not gridlocked in traffic for 2 hours every day on your commute to and from work. Or you can have a decent job at a good sized company with good benefits and things like that, but you're not in a city jam-packed on top of other people where it's stressful just to move around, but you're also at the same time, you're not rural and out in the middle of nowhere, right? You can just be 15 minutes from a downtown area and all the nice shops and restaurants that you might like. People from Florida, Texas, and California have really been drawn to the overall quality of life in Winston-Salem. It's one of their stated goals for 2030 to be one of the best places to raise a family. It's moving up on a lot of the best places to live lists throughout the country for small and medium-sized cities, and people are really starting to take notice of that. Next one is a big one and this is the overall affordability and cost of living in Winston-Salem. When people sell a house in, California or Austin, Texas, or Orlando, Florida, and they're going to move here, chances are they're going to be cashing out some equity from a house that might be $700,000 or $800,000 there. They can buy a similar house here for $400,000 or $500,000. They can cash out some equity there, and that just makes it all the more affordable. When you combine that with, generally lower property taxes, lower cost of living in general for everyday things like gas, insurance, healthcare, and things like that, it can make the affordability of living in Winston-Salem all the more appealing. People are coming from these states to live here for that reason, and housing is a big one. The median sales price for a home in Winston-Salem right now is around $350,000, but if you're in that $400,000 to $500,000 price range, you can get a nice home, 3 to 4 bedrooms that's updated, modern, and things like that. And if you're in the higher price ranges, $7, $8, $1 million plus, you can get a much nicer house than you can in, say, Austin or some of the areas in California, especially for that same amount of money. And Winston-Salem is generally, ranked about 15 to 20% lower than the national average as overall cost of living, but it's important to know that housing is a big chunk of that. Next reason people are leaving California, Florida, and Texas to move to Winston-Salem is the weather. I'm working with a few clients right now from Texas and a couple others from Florida, and it is hot there. They tell me all the time it's just the heat just really gets to be oppressive, especially in the summer through right now when I'm recording this, which is well into the fall in Winston-Salem. So while yes, summers here can be hot, the humidity can be a little bit higher, it's not like what you're going to experience in Florida or in, southern Texas and things like that, or southern California. The weather here is much more temperate for the vast majority of the year. We do have a hot summer, but remember, we're far enough north in the south, trademarked. We don't have the giant bugs that you might have down there. We do get 4 real seasons every year. And oftentimes we'll have a day or two in the winter where we'll see some snow, but it tends to go away quickly, usually that same day, sometimes a day or two. So getting away from some of the heat in some of those other southern states are really a big plus for people moving to Winston-Salem. Next is the community itself. People in Winston-Salem tend to be really friendly, open to people moving here from other places. And that's regardless to what you see on random internet forums. I talk to clients all the time, and they'll go to Home Depot, the grocery store, library, here and there. They're always remarking on how friendly people are here. And I've talked about that before as well. When I first moved here from the suburbs of Chicago, people were so nice. I thought they were going to ask me to borrow money at the end of our conversation just because I was not used to that. But people here are so friendly. There's an amazing sense of community. And there are neighborhoods in Winston-Salem that are really known for having a really tight neighborhood feel if that's what you're into. When I'm recording this, Ardmore just finished their trick-or-treating. One of my clients there said they had hundreds and hundreds of trick-or-treaters. Ardmore is a huge neighborhood for trick-or-treating and Halloween. It also just finished up its art walk, so that's one of those neighborhoods that really might have that tight community feel. But outside of that, the city and suburbs itself do such a good job at promoting community, whether it's a suburb like Clemens or a neighborhood in the city of Winston-Salem or Kernersville. They're really good at doing community events, promoting a sense of community and supporting independent and small businesses. They do a better job than this than almost anywhere I've ever seen. It really is amazing how the community here really comes together around small business and helping each other out. Next is the jobs in Winston-Salem. People are moving here from other parts of the country for the employment here. And when I'm recording this, the unemployment rate in Winston-Salem, North Carolina fell back below the national average. It's at 3.5% right now. So well below the national average again after a brief uptick. And again, keeping the size and scale and the overall affordability in mind, jobs here are tending to have higher wages even while other parts of the state and country, wages are going down. We're still seeing slight increases in the Winston-Salem area. And this is all kinds of jobs. I mean, with so much growth here in infrastructure, we need blue collar jobs. There are white collar jobs here. If you're into healthcare or in the finance industry, there are a lot of jobs like that. And I've had multiple clients that have come from, Texas and California and some major markets, and they're making the same money that they were in, San Diego, California or Austin, Texas. They're making that same and sometimes a little bit higher wage in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, which is really remarkable when you factor in the overall affordability of this area compared to those areas. It could be a real win, and it is for some people that come here from other parts of the country. And last one is a lot for Florida people. This is the halfbacks, they call them. I had never heard of that before I moved here, but people go from somewhere up, northeast, they move down to Florida. They want to come back. They're tired of living in Florida for whatever reason, but then they don't want to go all the way back up north. This is a great kind of halfway spot in between, affordable, good quality of life, still in the South, so you don't have those harsh winters that they left, but it's close enough to where if they want to drive back home, wherever that might be, they can do that, or just a quick flight. And if you need help buying or selling real estate in Winston-Salem or anywhere around the Triad, I'd love to be a resource. You can reach out to me directly at jeff@govalentino.com. Thanks.